Hello there, Cardano community. Welcome to the Dapp Central YouTube channel. My name is Fareed, and in today's video, as always, we're going to break down some of the latest news and updates surrounding the Cardano network. So the very first topic I want to touch on is going to be surrounding the highly anticipated Genius X public token launch and a few updates that have just been made by the team. On top of that, this team has officially announced their partnership and branching out into the Arbitrum ecosystem by listing 2 platforms that they'll be hosting their public token sale on. Second, I want to jump into some updates surrounding Minswap and the fact that we recently saw a lot of extra ADA being staked to the Min pool, and what they're now going to be doing is launching a brand new proposal to see what we can do with liquidity pool ADA when their existing pool is currently saturated. So there's going to be an on-chain vote taking place right now, and if you hold the Min token, you're not going to want to miss that particular update. The third and last story I want to cover for today's Cardano Scoop is going to be surrounding the Iagon TESTNET, which has just been released if you're a node or a storage provider. Now, as always, before we jump into today's video, if it's your first time stopping by, my goal is to provide you guys in the community with the latest news, tutorials, and reviews surrounding all the builders in the Cardano ecosystem. I'm also a single stake pool operator operating the official Dapp Central stake pool. If you'd like to support me on my mission to educate the broader Cardano community, then consider delegating with the stake pool. Jumping into the very first story or the first topic here for today's Cardano Scoop, I want to break down some news surrounding Genius X. So as I mentioned, we are expecting the upcoming launch or the upcoming release of the Gens X token. The team has officially confirmed that the tokens have been generated. And again, this is all being done ahead of time due to regulatory restrictions in the country where the project is based. So the Gens X tokens are live. The policy ID is available, and I'll go ahead and share that down in the description below. Now, keep in mind that just because the tokens are generated does not mean that they have been distributed. So that's what we're going to be expecting to take place. And this is what I want to cover here as a part of this update. So it says here, big update. There's now going to be a new sale date, and they've now also announced some partners branching out into the Arbitrum ecosystem. So this team is now going to be launching their token sale beginning on June 29th, and I believe initially it was set for June 26th. So about a 3-day delay here, but again, this will be kicking off not only on Cardano, but additionally on 2 new platforms on the Arbitrum network. So let's go ahead and touch on those now. So it states here, the Genius X team has officially partnered up with Red Kite Pad on Arbitrum, where they're also going to be allocating 22 million of their tokens, again, beginning on June 29th. They've also partnered up with Arba Pad, which is going to be a launch pad as well on Arbitrum, which is also going to be receiving 22 million tokens for sale, again, kicking off on the 29th of June. Now, very lastly here, they have made some updates to their actual tokenomics. It states here that moving forward, the team marketing DAO treasury and ecosystem funds, as well as their grant program fund, will not have any unlocks right after the TGE. They're all going to have a minor vesting period now taking effect. So it looks like they are updating the tokenomics as well as releasing some updates here surrounding the Launchpad sales on the Arbitrum network. If I jump over into my next tab, I did take a minute to quickly just check out Red Kite Pad as well as Arba Pad. And as you guys can see here, pretty standard, website here when it comes to launch pads. And if we actually scroll down a little bit, we can see that they've already primed their website to include the Launchpad sales for the Genius X accelerator and Launchpad platform. So it looks like they're going to be trying to raise a total of about $200,000 on the Red Kite Pad platform. And again, here we've got all the exact amounts, when the actual sale will be kicking off, and then the vesting schedule associated with these tokens. Jumping over on Arbapad, we do have a very similar look and feel here. However, I did notice that the actual accelerator sale is not yet listed And so if we view some of the upcoming projects, you'll notice that we've got 3 of them listed here, but we don't actually have the Genius X Launchpad sale just yet. So I'll be keeping an eye out on this particular website to see exactly when they list it, but I would assume that all the details surrounding the Launchpad will match what the Genius team has told us on their official Twitter. Jumping over into the very last section here, I did want to briefly touch on the fact that, again, the initial release of tokens for the team marketing DAO Treasury Ecosystem Fund and their grant program has basically been updated. So there's now going to be a lockup. I believe the smallest is going to be at least 1 month, but a 6-month lockup as well for the team right after the actual tokens mint. So I believe that the team was going to have some of these tokens immediately available right after the sale of the Launchpad, but that is no longer going to be the case. Now, before we close out this segment here surrounding Genius X, I do want to jump over onto their website for a little bit of alpha, it seems here. Again, given the fact that this team is going to be a blockchain agnostic platform. And so we can see that Genius X on Cardano will be getting an allotment of 19 million tokens. This has been updated. I know that initially, I believe Cardano's Launchpad was set to gain 11 million tokens. So there's now going to be an additional 8 million tokens available for purchase. Now, the minimum purchase amount, I believe, is going to be 5,555 of the tokens. Let me see if I can quickly find that here. And then the maximum is going to be 5,555,000 tokens for purchase. So if I scroll back down, we're also going to have an allotment of 19 million additional tokens on the Genius X platform launched on Arbitrum. So that is going to be the little bit of alpha there. We can expect Genius X to launch their platform on Arbitrum as well. So they're not only going to be Cardano native, but they're also going to be available on Arbitrum. Next, we've got the allotment for Red Kite, as well as Arbipad, which I just showed you guys there on their official websites. So that is going to do it there for that first update surrounding the upcoming Genius X token sale and some of the recent updates that we've seen, as well as the announcement of the addition of 2 launch pads on the Arbitrum network. The next update I want to jump into is going to be surrounding Minswap. So if you guys are not familiar, Minswap is going to be the top DEX right now on the Cardano network. Now, that said, we have seen the DEX gain a lot of traction, especially after the launch of SNEC and a few other meme coins. Now, traditionally, what the Minswap team does is they take all of the ADA that is given over into their liquidity pools, and they actually stake that directly with the official Minswap stake pool or the Min pool. Now, as a result of that, they're able to secure the Cardano network, but they're also able to earn additional ADA, which they keep a portion of, but then they also return a portion of that back over into the liquidity providers. So it's a win-win situation. It funds the actual protocol while also providing an additional form of revenue for the liquidity providers. Now, during the meme coin hype season, which just took place about a month ago, we actually saw that there was so much liquidity on the platform that the amount of ADA that they normally have delegated to their stake pool actually maxed out the stake pool. So they had more than 70 million ADA available to be delegated to the Min stake pool. Now, this was a first, and basically they had no idea as to how to proceed with the extra funds. Once they reached that maximum saturation level, they actually would have been earning less and less rewards for any additional ADA being delegated to that Min pool. So now what they have done is they've actually kicked off a proposal in order to ask the community as to how they want to see those funds being used moving forward, or the next time that we have an oversaturation of ADA coming from the liquidity pools on the Minswap DEX. So it states here that this proposal is going to be to determine the direction of the staking of ADA in the Minswap liquidity pools. Now, they're going to be suggesting 3 separate options, and what I want to do is break down some of the pros and cons associated with each. So it says here, option number 1 is going to be for randomized decentralization. This option includes a list of SPOs that follow a series of requirements, which will be compiled, which I'm actually going to go over with you guys here in just a minute. And then ADA in these LPs or in the liquidity pools, excuse me, will be delegated in a random ranking. So this will be taking advantage of the community and providing an opportunity for stake pool operators in Cardano to potentially earn delegation directly from the Minswap liquidity pool. So I'm a huge fan of this, given that I'm a single stake pool operator myself, operating the official Dapp Central stake pool. Option number 2 is going to be for active stake pool voting. So this is going to be a list of stake pool operators that follow a series of requirements, which again will be compiled, and I'm going to touch on those requirements here. And what we're going to see is that the Minswap community will actually be able to vote for these SPOs. So it's very similar, again, leveraging the community. However, the community is also going to have a say in a direction in where they actually want to see those funds being allocated. The third option is going to be for profit maximization. So this is going to be the addition of spinning up as many private stake pools for the Min protocol are as needed. So this particular option will not take advantage of SPOs building on Cardano, but instead it's going to take advantage of an additional Minswap specific stake pool being spun up from the Minswap pool, or from the Minswap team, excuse me, in order for them to delegate their additional ADA from their first pool, which will not be overflowing. So a quick recap: option number 1, randomized decentralization, where we have a list of SPOs, which are randomly selected. Active stake pool voting, which is option number 2, where we still have a list of SPOs from Cardano community. However, the Minswap community will be able to pick exactly where that ADA is delegated. And then number 3, or option number 3, which is going to be profit maximization, where we have additional Min specific stake pool spun up, and there's no leveraging of the Cardano SPO community. Now, if I jump over into this next tab here, I want to touch on some of the actual facts or some of the requirements in order to be validated as a potential SPO during either of the options, whether it's number 1 or number 2. So it states here that you have to be, number 1, a single stake pool operator. That means that you cannot be running more than one stake pool on the Cardano network. Number 2, you need to have a stake pool size of at least 200K all the way through 5 million ADA at the time of their snapshot. So what I like about this here is that 200K is going to be touching on a lot of smaller pools, and anything all the way up until 5 million pools, I would say in my eyes is still relatively small. Again, using my particular stake pool as an example, I've been in SPO for about 4 or 5 months now, and I'm right at the 5 million ADA delegation mark. That's about a 7% saturation. And I think this does 2 things. Number 1, it helps out some of the smaller members within the community, but it also gives the Minswap team a lot of room, again, given that they're going to be delegating quite a big amount depending on how much liquidity is on their platform to some of these SPOs, excuse me. Next is that they need to have a minimum fixed cost of 340 ADA, which right now that is the default. Next, we're also going to have a minimum pledge of 20,000 ADA. This means that the actual owner of the stake pool needs to at least have 20,000 ADA of their own into the actual stake pool. And then after that, the stake pool needs to be registered for at least 6 months with a total variable fee / margin to never exceed 3%. Now, I've touched on the margin before, but this is basically going to be the portion of the total rewards going to all the delegators that the SPO owner is able to keep, excuse me. Normally, when we have ICPOs kicking off on Cardano, we have platforms or teams giving away their tokens in exchange for ADA, where they have relatively high margins, normally all the way up until 99%. However, when you're delegating to a normal or a traditional stake pool operator, because you want to keep the majority of your ADA rewards, the margin is usually set to anywhere between 0 and at most 5%. But it looks like the Min team, in order to be eligible to be a potential receiver of their ADA LP, or LP ADA, I should say, you cannot have a margin fee exceeding 3% again. So I think this team has really done a great job of taking their time and thinking about how to help the smaller stake pools while also making sure that those stake pools have enough of their own ADA delegated and that they've been running on the network for quite a bit of time with margin fees that are not taking away the majority of the ADA rewards from the actual delegators of those stake pools. Very lastly, the stake pool operator needs to also demonstrate technical capabilities, having at least one block being minted. So pretty simple and straightforward requirements there. Let me know what you guys think down in the description below. But let's quickly touch on some of the pros and cons of each of these suggestions. Again, keep in mind that the vote is still ongoing, and we're going to touch in closing here on exactly how much time and how you guys in the community can go ahead and vote. So as a recap, option number 1 is going to be randomized decentralization. And so this is where the ADA from the LP pools will be randomly given out to SPOs that fit the criteria that I just mentioned. The pros with this approach is that's going to be fully decentralized and there's going to be minimum voting required. Again, given the fact that we are operating in crypto, decentralization is going to be a key factor and a key metric that we want to keep track of. One of the cons associated with this approach is that min holders have no say in the specific stake pools that are then chosen. ADA delegation to smaller stake pools might lead to slightly lower ADA rewards for liquidity providers. So a little bit of downside there for the key trade-off, which is decentralization. If I scroll down to option number 2, which is the active stake pool voting, where we have the Minswap community assisting within the voting process, the pros for that include min holders have the ability to say which stake pools get the delegation, and stake pools will try to find ways to attract min holders for their vote. Whereas on the downside or the con with this approach, there's going to be frequent voting, which might lead to voter fatigue, with the most popular stake pools receiving delegation instead of smaller, less known pools. So what we don't want here is going to be some sort of popularity contest. And I think that's what the con is alluding to. However, it will force stake pool operators to really put their best foot forward and also begin to try to attract the Minswap community in order to gain their vote. The very last option here is going to be the profit maximization, which again is going to be additional Minswap private pools being spun up in order to generate the maximum profit for liquidity pool providers. So this is going to be, in terms of pros, the easiest option to implement with slightly higher ADA rewards for liquidity providers. However, on the con side, by concentrating their stake, this strategy does not contribute towards decentralization of the Cardano network, and min holders will also have no say in the specific pools that are chosen. So as you guys can see, the 3 options all have their own pros and cons, and it's going to be up to the community to actually vote for the option that they want. So I've been keeping track of the actual votes as they've been coming in. And one thing that is interesting is that this team is looking to take away from any biases that may actually occur as the voting is taking place. Now, this is something that I haven't really kept track of or thought about before, but you can imagine that there would be some sort of groupthink mentality that happens whenever you actually can see the results of a poll as they're occurring, therefore kind of swaying you to vote towards a specific option that you may not have considered earlier on. So right now we cannot see the actual results of the current vote. However, the results will be made available once the vote closes. So what I want to touch on is going to be some of the specifics surrounding the vote. So you can only pick a single vote. And so that's one of the 3 options that we've talked about already. The vote started on 6/19 or on June 19th, and it'll be completing in about 2 weeks or on the 3rd of July. Now, the snapshot that they took actually took place on the 18th, and that was to figure out how much of the mint tokens were held by the Minswap community. So depending on how much tokens you hold, that will dictate the actual voting power that you have. So in terms of the quorum, we needed at least a minimum of 25 million of the Minswap tokens to be quote unquote used for voting. And we're well over that threshold right now with over 61 million of the tokens being used for voting. Now, to give you guys my 2 cents, what I have seen, because you can see some of the votes that have taken place so far, we've got 593 votes, taking place. And the majority of the votes do appear, at least what I've noticed, to be for randomized decentralization. So let me know what you guys think down below, which options you guys are going to be voting for. But I think this is going to be a key vote into the future for the Minswap protocol. And the fact that they're trying to leverage the community, I think, is the right approach here for what we're seeing. That is going to do it there for the second update for today's Cardano Scoop. If you guys have found this video to be helpful so far, I would really appreciate it if you guys could tap that like button. It's one of the easiest ways here to support me here on the channel, and it also helps to get this content out to other members within the growing Cardano community. The very last story I want to touch on for today's video is going to be surrounding the Iagon testnet, which has officially gone live. So I just released a video about Iagon and the fact that they were going to be releasing their testnet any day. And it has just been announced that the storage node testing is now live. So Iagon, if you guys are not familiar, is going to be a decentralized storage platform. As a result, there's going to be two sides of the equation. You can either access the Iagon platform as a storage provider, where you basically provide any additional storage on your hardware devices to the protocol in order to earn the Iagon tokens. And then you can also access the platform as a storage user. So that's going to be where you actually sign up in order to pay the Iagon platform in order to store your not software, but your data, on the Cardano blockchain. Again, leveraging their sharding method, which distributes and decentralizes anything that you upload to the Iagon platform. So it states here, we have just kicked off our testing program for the storage node 1.0. So right now, if you are a storage provider, or if you're planning to be a storage provider, you can jump onto the Iagon platform in order to begin testing the storage node API and the installation process. So as you can see here, they are going to be supporting the desktop application on Mac, Windows, and Ubuntu Linux. Now, I have not had the chance to actually deep dive and actually install this on my own, but I'm going to give it a try and I'm going to see exactly how difficult it is. And if it's not too difficult, you can expect a tutorial coming from myself breaking down the storage node testing portion of the Iagon testnet. So once you access their Google Drive, you can download the appropriate files that you need. And they've got pretty in-depth screenshots here breaking down the entire process in order to actually install and begin to get the storage node application to run on your local machine. Now, they also have API or endpoints that will allow for you to interact with these nodes. And they've also got that broken down here and explaining exactly what each of the commands are and exactly what you're expected to do when running these commands. Now, in terms of the actual, let's see here, upload process, you can begin, I believe, uploading directly to the storage node using the command line interface. And so you can perform some of the following actions. You can ping the storage provider node, you can test the node, you can upload to the node, and then you can download files from the node as well. Again, all of this is going to be documented here directly on the official Iagon blog. So I'm going to play around with this, but I again wanted to share this with you guys. I know there was a lot of people within the community who were extremely excited to finally get their hands on this. And it's been quite a while. You know, it really has. Iagon unfortunately underwent a little bit of liquidity issues, given the fact that we did see a bridge hack take place about a year ago on the Nomad bridge, where they had a little bit of liquidity. Since then, they've moved over to Cardano as a fully Cardano native project, and they've also migrated their token over to the Cardano ecosystem. That said, I believe that is going to bring us to the end here of today's Cardano Scoop, in which we've broken down 3 of the biggest projects right now building on the Cardano network, which include Genius X, the Minswap protocol, and the Iagon platform. If you guys found today's video to be helpful or insightful in any way, shape, or form, I would really appreciate it if you guys could tap that like button. If it's your first time stopping by the channel and you want more content just like this, consider subscribing. And if you have any questions for me surrounding anything that we touched on for today, then please make sure to leave a comment down below. That said, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video.